your legal launchpad.
Welcome. Here I have with me Professor Mitchell. How are you today?
Just fine. Thank you for asking.
Thank you. Thank you for coming with us today. So today, our episode is about the history of FAMU as we stand now and how we stood previously.
Okay.
Perfect. So I have a few questions for you. So first, I want to start by saying, why was FAMU Law granted a provisional accreditation in 2004?
In 2004, that's the normal process. And so the American Bar Association is the accrediting body approved by the Department of Education to accredit law schools because of their expertise. And we started in 2002, and usually right before the first class gets to sit for the bar examination after they graduate 3 years later, you try to get accreditation. And so FAMU went up for the first time and was approved for provisional accreditation on August 9th of 2004. And so the American Bar Association approved both us and Florida International University to get our accreditation because both of the schools started at the same time. We were approved in 2000 to start in 2002.
Very interesting. How did this label affect the perception of FAMU Law after being taken away and now given this provisional accreditation?
Well, it was actually a good label because everybody has to go through this process to get provisional accreditation. Some schools historically in Florida don't actually get approved for provisional accreditation when they sit for the bar. So they do a special appeal to the Florida Supreme Court to have to be able to take the bar and to have their scores, frozen until they get approved by the bar exam. So we didn't have to go through that process. At least 2 other schools in Florida did. So when we got it the first time, it was a great thing to happen.
Okay, so to confirm, so the accreditation, all new law schools get that after they're entering class, before the first class decides to take the bar.
Generally right around the time of their first entering class graduate. So that's 3 years later after they begin.
Okay.
Now in the original bill for the FAMU College of Law, by the way, I was executive assistant and the university lobbyist in 2000 when we got the law school return, right? So we're going through the process and we submitted an original bill to start the College of Law. And then midway through the process, there was this language in the bill submitted by the staff that said you had to get your law school approved at least after 3 attempts. And then they changed the language to say 5 years after the first graduating class. And I thought that was a poison pill. They were trying to kill us after they got us and have us taken away. But it turns out Stetson University took about that time on the 3rd attempt. So they took about 23 to 30 years to get approved. So I guess they gave us the same chance as they had given the first law school in Florida.
Gotcha. So I'm going to do some background foundational questions. How long have you been involved with FAMU?
So with FAMU, I attended from 82 to 88. I went to FAMU High. And when I graduated, I was crazy enough to convince the president, University President Dr. Humphreys, who had become a mentor to me, to allow me to create a pre-law program. And at that time, he told me we were going to try and get the College of Law returned. And so ever since he arrived in 85, he had requested from the Board of Regents at the time to have this program returned because we existed from 1949 to 1968. And his son was a lawyer, so he was going to get this program back. So every 5 years, he asked for this program. So from 1988 until I attended law school in 92, my first clerkship was in the Office of the General Counsel with my other mentor, Bishop Hollifield, the General Counsel, to work on the research for this law school. So I've been studying the history of the College of Law since 1988.
Perfect. So back to the perception of the provisional accreditation. Do you think do you think there's been any long-term effects?
There's no long-term effects from provisional. There's no long-term effects from when we got full accreditation in 2009. However, anytime the ABA challenges that, like with the other programs, they do reviews of your program. So even after you're approved, I think 4 years later, after the first full one, they do a review. And then every 7 years, they do a review of a program. So every accrediting body does it every 7 to 10 years, right? There have been times where the ABA says, we're not sure you're still in compliance. Tell us why we shouldn't take your accreditation away. So that's what's gotten into the news at times when it comes to bar passage or things about your academic program that might call accreditation into question. You remember in 2000, I forget the year, but Robert Champion was killed. And when FAMU, there was a threat of our accreditation, not by the ABA, but from the Southern Association of Colleges and Schools. There was a threat to take away our accreditation. and the ABA Council on Section on Legal Education asked us a couple of times to prove to us you're still in compliance with our requirements. And we've had to do that, and we've been successful every time.
So is that the process that happened between 2004 and 2009 for us to regain full accreditation?
Well, in 2004, like again, it's like this is the first step. So we're going to make sure you got enough resources in your library, enough facilities, enough in your academic program to prepare students to successfully pass a bar examination. Mm-hmm. That's what they're concerned about. And so when you look like you're on schedule to do everything to get full accreditation, they give you provisional accreditation. Subsequently, we want to make sure there's other things we want to make sure you got, and then we give you full accreditation. And then after that, if we hear problems or concerns going on and it gets out there, they do site visits to check to make sure you're maintaining everything you're supposed to be doing. That's when they review your accreditation.
All right, Professor Mitchell, can you do me the honor of telling me about the history of the law of the bar exam itself?
Okay, the Florida bar exam started in the 1800s when we were a territory, and they pretty much said if you were licensed in another state, you can automatically be admitted to the Florida bar, right? And they didn't have an organized bar, so you can allowed to practice law. Eventually, you didn't even have to go to law school at that time. You could do self-study, and in the Florida statutes, a judge would appoint a committee, and they would test you on the bar. And it's pretty subjective, right? So sometimes people had it real easy, sometimes people had it tough, especially if you looked like us. Mm-hmm. James Weldon Johnson talked about how they started quoting out of the statutes and testing him, but he successfully passed. And so you had that way all up till about 1925, they created a written bar exam. And so that's when they created that in the Board of Bar Examiners. But for Florida universities, law schools in Florida, immediately graduating, you were allowed to be admitted to the bar without taking the bar exam. So Stetson was allowed right away. University of Miami, the year before they were created, they did diploma privilege. Everybody got the University of Florida, got the diploma privilege. Everybody got it until they said they had to create a law school for Black people. And then 55 days before we opened the door, they took away the diploma privilege. They always said it was a good thing for their students for recruitment, but as soon as Black people got a chance, now it's a bad thing. So they ended the diploma privilege when they created us. Now, fast forward, after they took us away and when we were about to come back, they opposed us returning. Everybody opposed us, the ABA and the Board of Bar Examiners. And then the Supreme Court decided right before we were created in 2000, we're going to raise the score. They had lowered the score in 1982, 10 points. And then when FAMU came back, they said, okay, we're going to raise it 3 points, actually 6 points in stages. So in the first 2 years, we're going to raise the score 3 points and then eventually to its current score of 136. So as soon as we decided to come back, we're going to raise the score twice. So when people talk about the bar exam, I kind of take it with a grain of salt and a little bit of laughter. Nobody cares about the bar exam until it comes to FAMU and African Americans getting an education.
Oh my
But
God.
despite all of that, you still got to do well because that's the standard. So we're going to achieve that standard so we can stay in existence and excel.
Oh my gosh, the obstacles we have had in our way to even practicing a profession that needs equality, that needs people that look like one another to represent and advocate for each other.
Right.
It's absolutely, whew.
So sometimes history is a good teacher. So,
yes, absolutely is in this case.
So that's what always makes me nervous. When they talk about bar exams, we still have to excel because we've seen the tricks in the past, they're old tricks, and they sometimes bring back the old tricks.
Every time we will persevere, so it's fine. We got it.
That's right, persevere.
I gotcha. So my last question for you today is, as a FAMU history scholar, and we all know that history can definitely repeat itself, what can we do as students, as alumni, as faculty, and as administration to preserve FAMU law for future routes for justice?
Well, when we first tried to get the law school, there was a lot of opposition to us having the law school, even initially. I mean, there was no provision for African Americans at all to be educated in Florida. And we had to sue. Virgil Hawkins had to sue to try and attend the University of Florida. And in the Florida Constitution, it said that African Americans couldn't go to school with white students, right? So we sued under the case, the Supreme Court case, Missouri v. Gaines, to say, if you said separate but equal in Plessy versus Ferguson, where's our equal? We need our equals, right? So that's how we actually got in 1949 the College of Law, the College of Pharmacy, the College of Engineering, and Graduate Agriculture, because we kept suing to get it. They took it away in 68 when they said, under the guise of now we're going to integrate. Now we've changed the law, and Brown versus Board is the law of the land. We're going to allow y'all to go to our schools, so we're going to take away your school and give it to Florida State. That's historically what happened. Along the way, however, there was no concern about African Americans or Hispanic Americans or any minorities becoming attorneys. That's how we in FIU got it back. Since then, however, there's always going to be this poison pill out there. If we don't do well on the bar exam, that's going to be the reason that they want to take it. They don't even pretend that the University of Central Florida, when we put it here, University of Central Florida was the number 6 largest university in the state of Florida. Now they got to be number 1 in the country, or currently number 3, and currently the largest in the state of Florida. This is a very coveted program, a law program, pharmacy program, medical program, engineering. Those are very coveted programs. So we have to continue to excel. Sometimes it says we always got to do 10 times better or 3 times better, right? So our job as students and as faculty is to make sure our students do well on the bar exam.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
You're quite welcome.
Your Legal Launchpad by Florida A&M University College of Law. Origin, Jasmine Sutherland. Hosts, Amber Newsom and Jasmine Sutherland. Producers, Crystal Eugene, Cynthia Germain, Kayla Joseph, and Leanna O'Sullivan. Camera, Kayla Joseph and Leanna O'Sullivan. Audio, Riley Gibson. Set design, Crystal Eugene and Cynthia Germain. Editing, Riley Gibson. Intro voice actress, Briché DeVault. Credits voice actor, Riley Gibson. Executive producers, Mildred Graham and Robin Holmes.
Hey, it's Amber. Thank you for tuning in to your Legal Launchpad. Stay tuned for the next episode. We will be discussing the mentoring program with Professor Kim Craig Chatterton. See ya.